In 2011, when I first published a version of this essay, I surveyed the Foundation network. I was on the whole satisfied, but I had two big concerns. The first was what would happen to the Foundation when the president, Aryeh Nair, and I were no longer around. Second, and more importantly, what more could we still accomplish during my lifetime? When I established the Foundation, I did not want it to survive me. The fate of other institutions has taught me that they tend to stray very far from the founder's intentions. But as the Foundation took on a more substantial form, I changed my mind. I came to realize that terminating it at the time of my death would be an act of excessive selfishness, the equivalent to burning an Indian Maharaja's wives on his funeral pyre. A number of very capable people are devoting their lives to the work of the Foundation, and I have no right to pull the rug from under them. More importantly, we have identified and specialized in a sphere of activity that needs to be carried on beyond my lifetime, and whose execution does not really require my presence. That niche consists in empowering civil society to hold governments accountable. In the United States, there are some institutions, like the American Civil Liberties Union, devoted to the task, but in most other countries there aren't any. In many countries, wealthy people are too dependent on the government to be able to provide such support, nor are they motivated to do so. Hence the niche for us. I have also identified some other activities, such as protecting vulnerable populations and providing legal protection for the poor, that fall in the same category. These are worthy objectives, and the foundations ought to be able to serve them beyond my lifetime. What will be missing when I am gone is the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit that has characterized us. I have tried to deal with problems as they arose. I was able to move fast and take big risks. The governing board that will succeed me will not be able to follow my example. Will be weighed down by fiduciary responsibilities. Some of its members will try to be faithful to the founder's intentions. Others will be risk-averse, but the founder who spends the money he made is anything but risk-averse. The original structure of the Open Society Foundations was far too complicated to be preserved in its existing form. As I noted before, our growth had been entirely unplanned. During the period of explosive growth, when our spending went from $3 million to $300 million, we didn't even have a budget. Then Aryeh Nair came on board and brought some order into the chaos. He established a very elaborate budget process that takes a long time to prepare and has to start much in advance. I never took much interest in it. I was much more interested in rising to the occasion when an opportunity presented itself. As a result, Aryeh and I had two very different types of foundations combined in one. The initiatives in which I was directly involved continued to run on a very elastic budget, and the organization headed by Aryeh ran on a very tight budget. As the initiatives matured, they passed from my hands into his. By contrast, the human and civil rights and criminal justice areas have been fully in his hands since inception. Ours had been a very productive partnership, but it had resulted in a very unruly structure that would have been unmanageable in our absence. We felt we must reorganize it while we were around. A new president would have had to spend several years just to get to know the organization. As it turned out, the task of reorganization has fallen to the new management that took charge in 2018. They are making good progress in getting it done. I couldn't give proper accounting of the far-reaching and varied activities going on inside because I am not aware of all of them. When I was younger, I used to travel around the Foundation network all the time, and I was greatly inspired by what I saw. The activities of which I was not aware were often the best. It was the problematic ones that were brought to my attention. The foundations have grown organically by responding to needs and opportunities as they arose. In my opinion, that is the right way. Many other foundations are engaged in meeting their own institutional needs. We try to resist that. We pride ourselves on being a selfless foundation, That has been a source of strength for us. We have been able to cooperate with other foundations, and we have accomplished a lot more by not claiming ownership of the projects. Other institutions need to produce success in order to raise funds. We are satisfied by actually accomplishing something, whether or not it is recognized. Paradoxically, this has gained us more friends and allies than beating our own drum. But there is a downside as well. Since we don't advertise our successes, others don't do it for us either. We have been successful in moving where the action is. In each country, we start with supporting critical thinking or dissident activity, and we move in quickly when a new government comes to power that has good intentions but lacks the capacity to deliver. And we have been more persistent than official aid agencies in maintaining a presence long after they have moved on to greener pastures. The same is true of issues of global governance. We are not always the first to recognize them, but once we become aware of them, we remain committed to them, be it climate change, drug policy, or the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. Our main difficulty has been in keeping our network of national foundations and legacy programs from going stale. That requires almost as much effort as starting new ones, yet my preference has been to focus on the cutting edge. Going forward, I favor the network of networks format. The future